Hello and welcome back to In Response EDH. My name is Albert and today we have yet another great gameplay video for you. On today's episode, we have Mike returning with his 4-color Omnath landfall deck. He starts off with Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, Mana Crypt, Lotus Cobra, Lightning Greaves, Balaged Recovery, Field of the Dead, and a Mountain. I'm up next and I'm playing Lord Windgrace. I decide to keep an opening hand of Decimate, World Shaper, Realms Uncharted, Green Sun Zenith, Temple of Malice, a Forest, and a Mountain. Derek is back and he brought Zacama out to play. His hand consists of Rampant Growth, Tireless Tracker, Sakura Tribe Elder, Return of the Wild Speaker, Plains, Canopy Vista, and a Mountain. And last but not least, Jose is playing his Mimeoplasm deck, and starts with Animate Dead, Pongify, Void Slime, Jace Wielder of Mysteries, Sign in Blood, Underground River, and Watery Grave. With the introductions out of the way, let's start the game. Jose starts us off by playing a tapped Watery Grave. Derek follows his lead by playing a tapped Canopy Vista. Not wanting to be left out, I play a tapped Temple of Malice and Scry 1, keeping it on top. Mike plays a tapped Balaged Sanctuary, but has to 1-up us and play a Mana Vault, and taps it for 2 mana to cast a Lightning Greaves, and passes. Jose plays an Underground River, taps both land for black mana, dealing 1 damage to himself to cast a Sign in Blood, drawing 2 and losing 2 life. Note, Jose should be at 37, not 36. Jose goes to fix it, but it didn't register and stays at 36. Derek drops a Mountain and taps 2 to cast Rampant Growth, searching up a forest to the battlefield tapped. I play a forest as my land drop, tap it, and cast Exploration. I then drop a Mountain as my second land drop for the turn and pass to Mike. Mike loses the die roll for his Mana Crypt and takes 3 damage. He taps 2 mana to cast a Lotus Cobra, plays a Mountain, creating a blue mana. He equips the Cobra with the Greaves and moves to combat, letting his mana fizzle and hitting me for 2. Jose draws a card, misses his land drop, and has to discard down to 7. Derek untaps and draws, taps all 3 mana to cast Tireless Tracker, and follows it up by playing a Plains, making a clue token from the Tireless Tracker. I untap, draw for turn, and play a Realms Uncharted, searching up a Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, Field of the Dead, and Urborg, and then choose Jose to decide which go to my hand and which go to the bin. He chooses to give me the Urborg and the Field of the Dead. I then drop a Golgari Rotform on the battlefield, bouncing a forest back to my hand and dropping a Field of the Dead as my second land drop. With nothing else, I end my turn. Mike wins the roll for his Mana Crypt this time and then draws a card. He plays a Pillar Verge Pathway as his land drop and floats a blue mana from the Cobra, and uses it to help cast Tatiova Benthic Druid. He immediately tries to equip the Greaves to her, but in response, Jose destroys her with the Price of Fame and surveils 2 cards, keeping 1 on top and sending 1 to the graveyard. Mike then decides to equip the Cobra with the boots and attacks Jose for 2. Jose starts by playing an island and tapping 2 to cast Animate Dead, targeting the Space Godzilla in his graveyard, and passes to Derek. Derek plays a Mountain, making another clue, and then casting a Dryad of the Elysian Grove. He follows that up by casting Sakura Tribe Elder, and then a tapped Stomping Ground as his second land drop. He moves to combat and swings the tracker at me for 3 damage. I untap and draw my card for turn. I tap 5 mana to cast my commander, Lord Windgrace. I use his -3 ability, but mistakenly put 3 loyalty counters on because math is hard. Then return the Dark Depths and the Thespian stage from my graveyard to the battlefield. I then play a forest as my land for turn, creating a zombie from the Field of the Dead, and then a second from playing Urborg as my second land drop. I then activate the Thespian stage ability to make a copy of the Dark Depths, with no ice counters on it, which allows me to sacrifice it to create Merit Lage. Mike starts his turn once again winning the mana crypt roll and takes no damage. He plays a forest and floats 1 blue mana and uses it to cast his commander, Omnath, Locus of Creation. As it enters, Mike draws a card, and before he knows it, Jose casts Pongify, sending it back to the command zone and giving him a 3/3 ape. After that, Mike ends his turn. Jose starts his turn by playing Boseiju as his land drop, and does nothing else and ships the turn to Derek. On his end step, Derek sacks Steve to search up a plains and puts it on the battlefield tapped, making another clue token. He then moves to his turn and casts an Oracle Modiah. He reveals the top card and plays it since it's a land. He then casts Sword of the Animus and equips it to the tracker.
I can't do anything about it.
He used all his cards on me, so.
Damn right. And we'll do it again every single time.
He decides to attack Mike, triggering the sword and finding a basic land to put on the battlefield, and making another clue token. Mike chumps with a 3/3 ape, killing off both creatures, and then he passes. I untap and draw. On my main phase, I cast Decimate, choosing to destroy Mana Crypt, the Dryad, Boseiju, and the Oracle. I then use Windgrace's +2 ability to discard a card and draw a card. I then move into combat and swing my flying Merit Lage at Derek. He can't block it and loses half his life total.
Then I'll tap 3 for Ashnod's Altar.
Oh,
Yep.
cool. That
What
we
does
can
that
sack
one
the
say?
Merit Lage, right?
Mike starts by playing a Ketria Triome and floating a blue mana. He uses that to help cast Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, drawing a card and playing a Field of the Dead. He then floats 1 more blue mana and pays 3 to cast his own Tireless Tracker. He then ends his turn. Jose starts his turn by playing a forest and casting Nissa's Pilgrimage with Spell Mastery, putting a forest on the field and 2 more to hand. Derek draws the Rhythm of the Wild off the top of his deck and decides to tap out to cast Reshape the Earth, grabbing 10 lands and dropping them on the battlefield. Bouncing 3 back to hand since there were 3 bounce lands chosen. I untap my lands and draw a card. I move straight to combat and hit Derek for 20, taking him out of the game. On my second main phase, I sack a zombie to the altar for 2 colorless mana. I then use that 2 mana and tap out to cast Green Sun Zenith, where X equals 8, and search my library for an Omnath Locus of Rage, forgetting to shuffle the Zenith back into my deck. I then -3 the Windgrace to return the Dark Depths and the Thespian stage to the battlefield, creating 2 more zombies and 2 5/5 elementals, and pass to Mike. Mike untaps and draws for turn, and plays a Rogrin Triumph, again floating a blue mana, and making a zombie token. And cast Coma, Cosmo Serpent. He equips it with the greaves and passes to Jose. On Jose's upkeep, Mike makes a 3/3 Coma Coil. Jose plays a forest for turn and casts Eternal Witness, returning the Pongify to his hand. On his end step, I sacrifice one of my elementals to deal 3 damage to the coil. On my upkeep, Mike makes another coil and sacrifices it to tap down my Lord Windgrace and not allowing me to activate his abilities. I draw for turn, then tap 4 to cast Oracle of Modiah. I follow that up by tapping a forest to cast Sylvan Safekeeper. I then move into combat, swinging Merit Lage, an elemental, and 2 zombies at Mike. He blocks a zombie with his own zombie, and my elemental with Coma. When the elemental dies, I choose to deal 3 damage to Mike's Tireless Tracker, and Mike takes 22 damage. Mike makes another coil on his upkeep. He then casts his commander, Omnath, for the second time. He then drops a Flooded Strand, floating a green mana, making a zombie, and gaining 4 life. He sacks the fetch, losing 1 life, and searches the plains to the battlefield. Floating another 4 mana, he spends 3 of it to cast Rada, Heart of Keld, and looks at his top card. He uses 2 of the remaining mana to crack the clue and draw a card. On his end step, Jose casts Pongify on my Omnath. In response, I sacrifice a land to have my Sylvan Safekeeper give it Shroud till end of turn. Jose starts turn 8 by drawing, and Mike makes another coil. Jose then plays a forest and moves into combat, swinging his Space Godzilla at me for 7. I choose not to block and go to 28. On Jose's end step, I have my Thespian stage become a copy of the Golgari Rot Farm. On my upkeep, Mike makes another coil, and I draw for turn. I play the command beacon off the top of my deck and make another zombie. I move to combat, but before I do, Mike sacks a coil to tap down my Merit Lage. I sack a land, giving him Shroud. In response, he does it 2 more times, force me to sack 2 more lands to give him Shroud. I finally get to attack and swing at Mike with Merit Lage. I send Omnath and 2 zombies at Jose. Jose doesn't like being attacked and casts an overloaded Cyclonic Rift in response, saving Mike from the brink of death. Before everything gets bounced, I sacrifice my elemental to deal 3 damage to Jose. The rift then resolves, and me and Mike scoop up all non-land permanents. On my second main phase, I recast Lord Windgrace. I tick him down again and return Dark Depths and a mountain to the field, and make a zombie. I then tap 3 to recast Ashnod's Altar. I then move to my end step and discard Life from the Loam to get down to hand size. Mike starts his turn by tapping 1 for a Soul Ring. He then taps 2 to cast Lotus Cobra. He then plays an island as his land drop, floating a green mana, and pays 7 to cast Coma again. With nothing else, he passes to Jose. On Jose's upkeep, Mike gets to make another Coma Coil. Jose skips his main phase and goes straight to combat, swinging Godzilla at me and the Witness at Windgrace. I block the Witness, which dies, and I take 7. After that, he ends his turn. On my upkeep, Mike makes another coil and sacrifices it to tap down Windgrace again. I decide to dredge Life from the Loam and return it to my hand. I then tap 2 to cast it and return a command tower and a forest to my hand, since that's all that's in my graveyard. I play the forest and make a zombie. I tap the forest to recast Exploration and drop the command beacon as my second land for turn. Mike starts his turn by annoyingly making another coil. He taps 4 to recast his commander Omnath from his hand and draws a card. He drops an Arid Mesa on the field, floating a blue mana, gaining 4 life, makes a 2/2 zombie, and pays 1 life to crack the fetch land. He grabs a Temple Garden and brings it in untapped, paying 2 more life. When it enters, he floats even more mana. He uses 3 of it to cast Risen Reef. He reveals the top card of his library and puts it on the field, tapped since it's a land, and floats 1 red mana. Omnath triggers and deals 4 damage to me, Jose, and Windgrace. After that, he recasts the Lightning Greaves and attaches them to Omnath. At this point, I strike a deal with Jose in order to deal with Mike. Mike swings at Jose, and I cast Constant Mists with buyback to prevent all combat damage this turn. Jose starts his turn by casting the Mimeoplasm, becoming a copy of the Eternal Witness in his graveyard. He also gives it 0 power from the stunt double, forgetting it reads any creature from any graveyard, not just his own. When it enters, he returns a Cyclonic Rift to his hand and passes to me. I start my turn by recasting Oracle of Modiah, revealing and playing an Evolving Wilds and Wooded Foothills off the top of my deck. I'm making 2 more zombies. I sack both lands to shuffle the Carpet of Flowers away, grabbing a forest and a Cinderglade. I then play Glacial Chasm off the top of my deck as my 3rd land for turn, sacking it to itself and making even more zombies, and then pass to Mike. Mike starts his turn by playing an island, floating mana, and gaining 4 life. He then casts Mending of Dominaria, milling the top 3 cards, and returns Tatiova from the graveyard to hand and casts it. He moves to combat and swings all out at me, forcing me to cast Constant Mist again, sacrificing land to buy it back. Jose plays a swamp and casts an overloaded Cyclonic Rift. In response, Mike sacks all his coils to tap down all available lands, keeping me from being able to use the Thespian stage to make a Merit Lage after the Rift resolves. Jose then moves to combat and swings at Mike for 8 damage. I untap and draw, and start by casting Omnath again, and play a command tower, creating a 5/5 elemental. I tap the tower for green mana and recast Sylvan Safekeeper. I then use the Thespian stage to make the Merit Lage as I did before and end my turn. Mike rebuilds by first casting Soul Ring, followed by everyone's favorite, Coma, and then his commander, drawing a card as it enters. With his last 2 mana, he casts the Greaves and attaches them to Omnath, and attacks Jose for 4 damage. Jose draws and casts Doomsday, causing him to lose half his life and exiling all but 5 cards and setting up his combo. I untap and draw for turn. I recast Ashnod's Altar once again and sack an elemental, dealing 3 damage to Jose and floating 2 mana. Mike then sacks a coil to tap down the Merit Lage. I sack a land to give it Shroud. Mike does the same thing again, making me sack another land to give it Shroud. I then tap 7 mana to recast my commander. I use the -3 ability to return Field of the Dead and Wooded Foothills to the field, making 2 zombies and 2 elementals. I cracked the wooded foothills, losing a life, and searching up a forest, making more tokens. I then enter combat and swing Merit Lage at Mike, taking him out of the game. I then sack all my elementals to lightning bolt Jose to death. This was a very grueling game. I thought for sure Jose had handed Mike the game after that first rift, since I would have been able to kill him that turn, but that allowed Mike to rebuild super fast, forcing me and Jose to work together to take him out. Jose was 1 turn away from pulling off his Oracle combo, so it was a good thing I ended the game that turn. Unfortunately, Derek was taken out very early, so we didn't get to see what he would have done with all that mana. But I've learned once you hit someone for 20, better finish them off, since they probably won't be too happy with you. We here at In Response would like to thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure you follow us on our social medias. We also stream every Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome day.